Hey guys! So this is going to be a tutorial on how to make a Photoshop layout for your website. And as you can see right here, I designed my website completely in Photoshop. And then I went over here and you can see I turned it into a workable web page. So it's a pretty handy way to design your web page if you want something a little bit more artsy and not so commercial. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how my layout works. If you're not into web design, just kind of like run down the rough basics. If you already are aware of some of this stuff, feel free to skip ahead towards the good stuff. But right here, you can see I'm going to code this is an iframe, and it holds my recent Twitter activity right here. So this is an iframe. Basically what it is, it's a web page that's kind of stuck inside of a frame. So just imagine like a box, and your web page is going to show in that box. And usually you can have like scroll bars here if you want to completely keep it in the box. I turned off scroll bars because I didn't want them here. Over here you can notice that I changed it to regular hyperlinks. It's just text, and I didn't use the images that I wanted to use. Like up here you can see the contact is an image. And over here I kept the image, and then I hyperlinked it to a mail to thing. You can see down here in the corner. You can see it'll lead to an email address that I wanted to target it to. But the reason behind this is I'm not 100% sure what I wanted my website to be, so I decided I would change it up and make it more of something you can change so it's not completely stuck, and it's a pain to go back through and like re-edit your entire layout if you just want to change sound design to something like compositing. So this is a nice way to kind of be able to make your layout change with you. So keep that in mind when you're designing. You can see that this was my testing here to see just like the style I wanted. And back over here, you can see I kept it mostly the same. It's a little bit different. You have black, which is nice to draw your eye down and everything. So there's that. And it's a layout that will be infinite, so it infinitely scrolls depending on how much stuff I have here. It will automatically start scrolling, and I can show you an example here. If I just take off this right here, and we'll go to my offline one, and we'll refresh this, and you can see right here this infinitely will scroll with whatever text I have plagiarized from Wikipedia right there. Also keep in mind that if you want to make one that scrolls infinitely, not to have anything over here, like you see I had to actually add a layer here, a div layer, I don't know what that stands for, but I had to add that in over here to actually make it work. Which, I mean, it's no problem, but it's a lot easier if you don't have that design element there, because you can see a little bit of the color is not 100% perfect, but it works. So that's the basic introduction on how to kind of set up your layout. It's pretty easy. Just watch out if you want to make it infinitely scroll to not have your background leaking out over the section you want to have scroll. And iframes, you can do iframes, you can do targeting into iframes. So that's the basic rundown. Once you have your layout all designed and everything, the next step is going to be actually slicing this up, and after that we're going to go into HTML coding and Notepad. So what we're going to be doing is using the slice tool to chop up this image into pieces. The theory behind this is if you take a larger image and you chop it up into smaller pieces, it's going to make it load faster over the internet. So it's a good way if you have a larger file size and you kind of want to make it load faster, you can chop it up. But what we're going to be doing with it is, I'll turn this on so you can see what I did for my last one, is actually taking all these images and using the information it gives us, then code whatever we want to do. So you can see I chopped off the bottom of this here, and I also chopped off the side over here with navigation, which I didn't need to chop off the navigation. I actually just wanted it for the edge, for the iframe, for my recent tweets that I wanted to do. So this little box up here is what I did, since I decided to do hyperlinks instead. I decided to draw a box around the contact because I wanted to make this a cool little mail to. You can see it shows up as a mail to down there. And the bottom here, this I'm going to turn into a repeating image. So basically what you do is you take this and you use it as a background inside of the table. You can use it to position the background in that one cell of the table, and then you're gonna use it as a background and put text over it. So that's how you can write the text there. And that's pretty much the basic introduction to the slice tool. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get rid of anything you don't want to be on your background layer. So I don't want this at all. And depending on if I wanted to code this over here, I could turn it off if I wanted to do the hyperlinks that I did, or I can turn it on and I can code it this way. I think I'm actually going to code it this way just to easily show you how you can slice things into sections. So once you have your layout cleaned off of everything that you need, the first thing that you want to focus on is your main content area. And as you can see, that's the bottom one over here. And usually when you're doing this, you want to make sure that it's completely straight and there's no images over here that are going to repeat on the side. For me, remember I had to put an extra layer on there to fix that part. You just want it to be blank. But you just want to section off whatever you want your main layout to be. Oops. And you can just edit it and move it with you're just left clicking and dragging, and then you can move these here. And you can also turn on or off snapping depending on if you want it to snap to a certain guideline. That's another way you can do it. You can actually draw guidelines on here, and then you can draw and snap to the grid. And it's an easier way. If you want to do it that way, you can. It doesn't really matter. So once you get that sectioned off, let's say I wanted to make my iframe here again. You just kind of draw where you want it. And then I want to draw one over here for that, my contact area, and then I also wanted my blog to be a cool hyperlink. And you can see that snapping is kind of not working because I don't want people to be able to click down on projects and have it link. I want it to be kind of more precise. So I'm going to turn off snapping, and then I'm going to edit that one. And you can see once you're done with the slice that you want to be on, you can't go back and edit it, so you need to go back to the slice select tool, and then you can click on these things. You can click on each slice and you can actually edit them. So let's say you edit the slices that you already have done, and just go back there to that one. And let's say I wanted to turn snapping on again, just because I want it to make a nice clean edge here. I don't want a million pieces. Let's say I wanted to actually code all of this. I would drag this here, and there's actually a cool thing that where you right click in it and you say divide slice, and then you can see I already entered in 6. You can actually divide all of these equally, so you don't have to painstakingly kind of divide them up. You can also do it vertically across if you want to do that, and add as many as you like. So that's a pretty handy thing. You can turn on and off the preview just to make sure you're getting what you want. And once you have everything divided, there's actually this really cool handy thing in the newer ones where you can right click on here and go to edit slice options. And now what this is going to do is bring up something like this, and you can see you have a URL section here. So if you wanted to link your about me page to an about.html page, that's how you do it, and it saves a lot of time when you're going back and coding things. You don't have to go back and look through your notepad file and then add it in there yourself, which is really handy. And target, that's if, say this was an iframe and I wanted my about me page to go into my iframe, I would target it into this frame, and I would call this iframe frame, and the about me would then open up in my iframe, which is called frame. So that's how targeting works. It's also good if, let's say, you wanted to make one of blog and you have an external site. So you enter in your external web page there, and you can actually do _blank. And what this is going to do is it's going to open it up in a completely different tab. There you go. See, it's going to load up my blog right there. And that's really nice because then people don't have to hit the back button and be like, oh crap, I wanted to be on that thing again. alternative text if you wanted to. That's the hover over text thing. So if you wanted this to say mail me or something, you would just say the alt tag would be mail me, and then when people hover over it, it'll just say mail me. Message text, I have no idea what that is. The name usually is if you wanted to change this box right here and you knew you were going to be doing like an iframe or something. To make it easier to find it in your notepad file or in the HTML section, you can name this something ridiculous like tweet box. And then when you go back and look through your HTML, you're going to look for tweet box, and then you can just easily find that. Right now there's actually a problem with how this is encoded. You see this line right here. This line is actually going to slice the dotted line, and we actually don't want that in, because it's going to slice our box in half. So you might have to encode this more than once about how you want to do this. Usually it's better if you start with the smaller sections first, and then you can add the other sections. And see, that fixed it, so it's okay. Control Z is a lifesaver, and it can go back and fix all this stuff. One thing you want to make sure when you're hyperlinking and you're targeting and everything, you want to make sure that you're only selecting each of the stuff you want to select. If you have multiple slices selected, it's not going to work. So make sure if you need to, you do the slice select tool, and it's going to show up like this crazy orangey pinky color. Just make sure that you target each one of these separately, otherwise it's going to keep overriding each of these sections, and then you're not going to be able to target them correctly because they're just going to overwrite everything. Okay, now you may have noticed that I have a contact@noelnichols.com. This is actually an email that I want to link to, and you might have also noticed that I didn't tell you how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, inside of the URL you just add the mail to tag, so you actually just type mail to : and then you type whatever the actual email is. And that's actually going to open up an automatic email thing for you, so you click on that and it's going to open the person's email and already compose a new message to that. Now, one thing to note about this is website etiquette. This is fine to do a mail to, but if you have like a contact me over here on the side like I do right here, it's actually better to not do the mail to on the contact me. It's better to actually link that to a page, a contact page, and then have your email written out. Watch what you use that mail to tag on. Don't just say contact me and then link that to the mail thing. You want to make sure that you always type out your full email address, just so that people know what your email address is and have a way to actually email you instead of just having to click on that link. Sometimes it doesn't work. Once you have all of your things sliced up, file save for web and devices. And you might actually already be aware of this. This is what you use when you want to compress some of your files for the web. But what this is going to do is it's going to save out all of our image files, and it's going to give us an HTML file. I used GIFs for a while, but make sure you want to look at the one that's probably the most image heavy. So this picture right here is the one I want to compare when you're compressing them. GIFs kind of, you only have 256 colors for GIFs, so be kind of careful if you have a lot of colors. This doesn't look too bad, but and you can see the file size is 40. JPEG is a lot better, but JPEGs tend to kind of kill your text down here. You can see it's really nice, crisp and clear up here, so I'd want to raise the quality up here, change a couple settings, see if I can get that to read a little bit nicer. Maybe lower the blur down a little bit, and see that doesn't look too bad, and it's still 25. So once you get all of that done and you got everything compressed how you want it to do, you want to click the preview button here, and then what this is going to do is it's going to open up a nice preview about, you want to make sure that your puzzle is fitting back together. And it's going to open an Explorer. I hate you. This is what it looks like. You can see that all of my pieces are together, and you can see my targeting is working. And you might notice that I actually linked these to .php files instead of .html HTML or HTML. They work pretty much the same. It's just a nice little trick. If you know what you're doing in PHP, you can actually change all of your pages at once, which is why I have them in PHP. I might go into that later if I remember. If not, it's kind of an advanced thing and I want to keep this as simple as possible. So don't worry that mine say PHP, just link to your .html or .html. It doesn't matter. They're both exactly the same. It's also going to give you a nice little preview about what our HTML thing is going to look like. I don't really think there's much of anything to look down there. You can just see that everything looks like it's supposed to. So that looks like it's about ready to go. So you want to click save and wait for it to pop up. And you want to make sure your format says HTML and images. And I'm going to save it into a new folder so I can code this thing all over again. Usually if you want to automatically make your website load, you want to type in, you want it to be indexed, because this is the web page that's going to automatically load. If you have like noelnichols.com and then you have an index file, it's going to automatically look for the index file. So you don't need to type in noelnichols.com/index. It'll just load with Noel Nichols. You want to make sure that if you want it to automatically load, that you do that. If you messed up on one of your slices and want to go back later to, like if you mess up, you misspelled Noel and you only put one L in there, you could go back to this over here, select the slice that you wanted, then click save, change this down to selected slice. Let me move this up so you can actually see. Selected slice, and then it'll just save out that one image. So that's how you fix it if you mess up. And I don't really care what this is called, just for argument's sake, just follow my example. We're going to name this index.html. Make sure it says HTML and all images and everything, and then just click save. And then we can open up this here, and you can see that it has already saved out all of my stuff. And we are ready to encode this. Okay, so now you should have a folder with your image files all chopped up for you, and you should also have an index file. Now you can edit this in Notepad if you wanted to. However, it's not color-coded and there's no numbers on the sideline, which is good. So what I got is a program called Notepad++. It's freeware, so you can feel free to download it. It doesn't cost anything, and it turns all your files to look like this, which is a lot like an FTP editor program. It just has the numbers on the side, so you can easily debug things, and color codes it so it's easier to find stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually code this part here to hold my text. Now, if you remember what you called it, I called mine layout extend, but if you don't know what it is, you can just right click, say view image, and it'll say layout extend right there. And we want to open up our HTML file. I could probably close this one down. And I want to look for layout extend. And there it is right there. Now what we want to do is we want to change this table cell, and we want to slap a background on it, and then we want to put our text over it. And if you know CSS, it's a style coding shortcut that you can kind of put in here. So what we want to do is we want to say style is equal to, and in quotations, you want to make sure you have everything in quotations, background dash image colon, and then in parentheses, and two little tick marks, apostrophes. Now, it's just a good practice to kind of do both of them at the same time, just so you don't forget to close your tags. And then you want to say images slash, and what this does is our folder right here is going to look for the folder images, and then in the images it's going to look for the image file. So this is what the slash is for, and images is going to be in the main thing. If you want to move your images to something else like layout or something, you would just change that, but we're going to leave it and just upload this entire section to our website as is. So you want to say images slash layout extend dot JPEG. And then we want to move over and put a semicolon right here. And that's just going to say that that's the end of that style. The background image has now been set to that. And we want to also make this background repeat. So we're going to call the background tag again, background repeat, colon, and we're going to have it repeat over the y-axis because we want it to scroll down. If we wanted it to scroll horizontally, we would say over the x-axis. So over the y-axis, semicolon to close it off. And then we want to actually take this tag and we want to cut it. Now why I'm cutting it is just in case we spelled something wrong and we need to go back and see what these settings are. We still have it on our clipboard, but we just want to cut that, so Control X. And usually what I do is I want to make this nice and big so I know exactly where my thing is, and we're going to say, yay, for text, happy day, and we're going to save that. And let's go back to our design and see what it does. Yay for text. You can see that my background did not show up. So now we have to go back in and see why my background is not showing up. I actually forgot a tag right there. There we go. I make mistakes too. So this is the tag that you want to type in. Let's save this again and now we'll try it. Ta-da! There we go. Now we have our text there. On the sides, it's not positioned correctly. It will actually run all the way over here. Let me just pull up Wikipedia and we're gonna plagiarize some stuff here. Let's see, what do we want to plagiarize this time? How about a sheep? Sheeps are cool. And we're just gonna copy some of this text here. And I'm gonna paste that into here just so I can see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna go back over here and reload it. Now you can see that this is not what I want to happen. I want all of my text to stay in this little section right here. So what we can do is we can go back to our image tags up here and we want to add something called padding. And padding is just going to make it the blank space on each end. So I need some padding on the left, and I already know the numbers that roughly will get me where I want to go. And then I also want padding on the right, and I want about 620 pixels. Make sure you end it with pixels at the end, otherwise it's going to mess everything up. Make sure you end everything with a semicolon and have those quotes over there at the end, and then save this and go back and see what this does. So there you go. And as you can see, this is the stupidity that I was talking about over here with my background image not being blank over here. It doesn't look too bad, but I didn't want it to repeat all the way down. But for this, mic's there. For the sake of this, I'm just going to leave that here. And if you want to ask me how I got these numbers, I just kind of changed it and I kind of guessed where I wanted them to be. You can just always save and kind of guesstimate where you want it to be. If you want it a little bit more in, if you want a little bit more out. Usually I don't have a precise thing for that. You could probably use Photoshop to do that, but I can usually guess it pretty well. So there's that. Now we can have our text over there. The next thing I want to do is code this iframe that I have up here. And if you remember right, I called this tweet box. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to search for my tweet box. Tweet box. And it's going to pull it up over here. And we're going to do almost the same thing, except instead of creating a background, we're actually going to target a new frame for this. So the iframe code is iframe source src equals whatever you want to call your frame. I'm going to call it welcome.html. Naming, you want to make sure you name it if you want to target things into the box. I'm not going to, but I'm still going to name it tweet box in case I need to. Width equals, you want to make the width the exact same width as this. So 338, and the height we want to make that 230. Just make sure all those values are exactly the same. Make sure you say border equals 0, And frame border, I don't want any kind of border around this. So I have to turn off the frame border, otherwise it's gonna make like this really nasty thing. Frame border, and then you also need to end the iframe tag right there. So there's your code for an iframe. You put your website address or the page that you want to do, welcome.html. You name it tweetbox in case you want to target links into it. You want to keep the same width as your image, the same height as your image. You want to add border equals 0 and frame border equals 0, and then make sure you cut off the iframe by closing that tag. And then what you want to do is you want to copy, select all this, the image tag, and you want to cut this again in case anything goes wrong. And then file, save, and we'll go back over here and see what it does. You can see there's my iframe. I don't have that page right now. We'll make this page just to show you what it's gonna look like. So file new, just add in all of your codes. Head, Nichols is portfolio, title, head, body, HTML. So there's that, and we're just gonna say, okay, and we're gonna rename this welcome.html and change this down to, let's see, where are you? There you go, hypertext markup language, and click save. Okay, and now if we go back to this and we refresh and go back to our welcome page, and we're going to create, you can also do this in your CSS, but I'm not going to be teaching the CSS at all in this, so I'm just going to teach you the old school way. So body equals style equals, just close that up, background dash image colon URL parentheses apostrophes, and then we have this handy little code that we kept. Just paste it down here and it's going to give you the image files that you needed. That's why I usually keep it on my clipboard, but if you don't have it on your clipboard anymore, just go back to your image folder, find the name of it, and type in the coding for that. So I'm going to get rid of that, and background style, semicolon, and we took away our blah 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 blah. So you can't actually see there's anything there right now. Let's go back and double check to make sure that's still working. Okay, so there's that. If you wanted to make sure that there is no scroll bar there, let's just take some of this stuff in here and copy and paste that. And see, we have this scroll bar here. If you want to make sure there's no scroll bar, go back to your index page, go back to where your iframe is, and you want to add this tag scrolling equals no. And then file, save, go back, reload the entire page, and it took that off. So there you go. You can't actually scroll anymore, and it's completely fixed, so that hides your iframe in there. You want to make sure that all of your pages are the exact same as the index. So if you wanted to make another page, you would just take the index.html files that you have, and you would actually just change all of this, and you would be like, about me, this is the page. And you would save this as your about.html file, but mine is actually linking to a PHP file, so we're gonna call it PHP so it'll actually automatically link. So there's that, and just refresh that about and see it's gonna open that page, about me, this is my page, and that's how you do all of your pages, and all of your links are working and everything is nice and pretty. So that is the end of this section. That's how you code your layouts and do everything like that. I think I'm gonna actually add an extra section in here. This is gonna be an extra trick on why I use PHP for all my files. It's just a little tiny quick way to update all of your files, all 20 of your web pages at the same time, and it kind of makes the hassle of creating that last page really easily. Okay, so this PHP section is only going to work online. You actually have to upload all of your files to see this take an effect, and you want to make sure that your domain actually is PHP enabled. I don't think it matters if it's PHP 4 or 5, but your web host needs to be able to read PHP and have that handle in there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, your website probably doesn't have it, but if you bought a domain and there's PHP in it, then you can go ahead and do this, and it's going to save you a bunch of time. If you don't have PHP or anything else, you can always check with your web hosting to see if you do have it. If you don't, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions, you can shoot me an email, leave me a message. Maybe some people will be able to help you if you have any comments or anything. Depending on how my schedule it is, it might take a really long time for me to get back to you, but I tried my best to explain things and I'll help as much as I can. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Share it around and let me know how I did and such. If you want to continue on with me with the PHP thing, welcome aboard the PHP train. Okay, so this is the extra little magical trick that I figured out while I was working on websites. Remember how when we created a new web page, like our about page, we had to copy all of the information from our index file that we were working on? Well, there's a really cool trick to actually take all this coding and link it from a different file. It's going to pull in all that information, and you're going to be able to just edit one file to change all of these. So what you want to do is you want to take all of the stuff above where your text is and just copy that or select that all, and then you want to cut it. So Control X, and then we want to create a new file and paste. So and we're going to save this as header.php. Now you're going to have to make sure this is PHP because it requires PHP to actually pull all the stuff in. So you have to save all your files as PHP. Like I said, you can still use HTML tags, and it's pretty much exactly the same. So don't worry about it. It just having a different file extension. So save this as the header, and then we want to go back and we want to grab all this stuff at the bottom, and we want to cut that. We want to create a new file and paste that in, and we want to file save as. We want to call this footer.php, and make sure you change this to PHP and click save. Now you want to go back to your index file, caret arrow thing. We're going to go question mark PHP include and little asterisks. We want to make this header.php and then question mark and little caret. Now what this is going to do is it's going to pull in all the information from header.php, which you know is all of the stuff at the top of what this is. And then we want to copy this tag and want to paste it down here, and we want to call this footer.php, and then we want to save this, and then we want to go back over to our, that is my live one. I'm going to go back over to our thing and notice that this is index.html, so it's not going to work. So make sure you go back and you want to change this to .php. And yes, it's not going to do anything, so you can change it. Okay, remember how I said that you had to have it on an actual website for it to work? So this is what it's going to look like when you try to access it on your local computer. But I will prove to you that this has worked. This is my online site, and all the files are uploaded. You can see I have... let me just resize this here so you can actually see. This is my HTML, my FTP program. This is my header. It's exactly the same. I just took all of the information that was at the top. I, of course, added a couple more things because I have a couple more scripts, but I will totally prove to you that this is going to work. Let's see, what should we do to this? Here we go. Here's a good one. We're going to change Noel Nichols' portfolio. We're going to change this to... Okay, and we're going to save that, and we're going to upload that. And then we're going to reload this. You can see it shows up as Garala. And then if you go to the About Me page, it still shows up as Garala. Contact Me page still shows up as that one. And you can save that. If you need further proof, what should we do? How about we completely take away all of this and we'll just say hi and save that. Yes. And reload this page. It's gonna mess everything up and it's just gonna say hi up there. And I just realized I took away my navigation. So that is not fun at all. So you can see that all these pages I just broke with just changing one file. So it's a pretty powerful tool. Not something to be taken lightly. It's very powerful. And reload that, and we just fixed all my pages. So that's the power of linking all of your stuff, and that's why I usually make all my stuff PHP now, and now it's simple. All I have to do is change the header and the footers, and it's going to go through all my pages. This is really handy when you have a website like I had that was like 200 pages, and changing layout was a pain in the butt. So that's my last secret cool trick of the day. If you have any questions, like I said earlier, feel free to leave me comments, email me. Depending on my schedule, I may or may not get back to you. It depends. If you can answer anyone's questions, please go ahead, share it around, share the love, and favorite and like it. So, happy Photoshop layout making. I'll see you in the next one.